Welcome to the wild where the adventure awaits. Hunting, fishing, filled with tales and great mates.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast. Got a new intro for you today. Hope you guys enjoyed that a little bit longer. Tell me what you think. Send me some messages. Give me some feedback. Want me to go to the old thing, or if you're liking the new thing, it's actually a song I put together using some AI tools. That being said, we have a great episode for you today, guys. We're connecting with Brian Dowling. Brian is a hunter, a veteran, a gun nut, gun expert, I really should say, that reached out saying he had some fun stories to share, and he certainly does. That being said, I don't want to ruin them for you, so we're going to go ahead and let Brian tell you those stories, but for you listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Give me feedback on that song. I really would appreciate that. Also, I have a special surprise coming out on Friday, a new special edition of the podcast. I'm going to maybe start doing every Friday. Please give me feedback on that as well when it hits. So that's it, guys. Let's kick this thing off and let Brian tell you some of his stories. Thank you. All right, Brian, welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast, brother. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Really happy to be here.
Dude, thank you so much for reaching out once again. I mean, I think it's going to say this last like 5 episodes or something like that, but I do have a little form to fill out if you want to come on the podcast and tell some stories, and you did that, Brian. So thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. I'm super excited to hear your stories. I don't know what we have in store for us today, but I know you mentioned them to Jared, and he said he's excited to hear them. So let's do this. Why don't you introduce yourself, man? Let the people know who they're hearing some stories from.
All right. So I am. My name is Brian Dowling. I work actually for a couple companies. I work for my main job is for XCAL Shooting, Sports and Fitness in Ashburn, Virginia. We're a 97,000 square foot shooting facility, gym, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, gun
awesome.
store. You name it, shooting whatever, we do it.
Are you at your house or at your work right now? Because you have more guns behind you than anyone that's been on the podcast.
So that's kind of part of my job. I have an extensive education in firearms.
Okay.
I actually all the way up to master's degree. Like,
cool.
I'm like one of the few people in the world that has a master's degree in guns.
Man.
I studied procurement and development, so that actually ties into my job. I am I'm kind of like the right hand at XCAL. I do a ton of different stuff. I'm their last living gunsmith, so I do a ton of stuff for them, and all this stuff behind me. This is what I do.
Cool.
I teach gun building classes, but and I also, starting next year, we start our own company called Firearms. It's already started, but now we're going to be rolling live next year, and it falls a little bit in the tactical, practical world. We're making our own PCC, our own subgun, and I'll be working for them. I'll be a manager for them as well, doing development, and so it's crazy. So the world is my gun. The gun world is my world. I will admit that. But as part of that job, I work a lot of long-range shooting, and as part of my own personal development, being a veteran and a former contractor, hunting is a big piece of me. It's my PTSD therapy. It is. I'm kind of our official, non-official outfitter. I've worked for Cabela's in the past, we have some very high-end clients, and I provide them with every bit of hunting knowledge that I have. Yeah. And I'm very much an at-home guy. I'm a West Virginia hunter, big whitetail hunter. I travel to North Carolina to hunt hogs. I used to live out, and you're in Colorado, correct? Or
yes, sir.
Is that where you're at? Yep. I was stationed out at Carson for a while. So
okay.
So but hunting is like 90% of my life. It is literally what I live for.
You got a lot going on. So if hunting is 90% of that, then oh my goodness,
the rest of the stuff comes easy. You know, shooting irons are a big piece of me, but I tie them all together.
Okay.
Crossbow hunting is actually, I'm a average archer. I'm a really good crossbow hunter.
Okay.
So, because I think that the two, between firearms and crossbow, I think there's some philosophies that do mix,
I
and I'm
believe
sure
that.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, opened a can of worms with that one. Somebody's out there probably screaming and yelling at some point, being like, "No, they're different," But
Yeah,
I,
dude.
y-
I don't know enough about any of that stuff. If you enjoy it, that's all that's important.
is it true?
It's like I saw a documentary on whiskey. I think the whiskey it was called neat, right? You have your whiskey neat, and
Yep.
there was this big segment about like the most important part to enjoying whiskey, and in our case, enjoying hunting, is doing it the way that you enjoy it, and that's
True.
what's important. And there's
Yeah.
no wrong way to do it. You can do it with a splash of water. You can do it with like, some cubes of ice. You can do it neat. You can do it however you want. So when it comes to hunting, man, do it the way that you do it. Enjoy yourself. I mean, obviously be, responsible to to nature and the animals, ethical, all that stuff. But just do it the way you want to, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So it is. It's a huge part of my life. I really enjoy it. I love being the guy that gives that information to people. Like I love
That's
it.
cool.
Like that when they come in, and we get people come in. Virginia can be a melting pot, especially Northern Virginia, right outside the city, right outside
Okay.
DC. And people come in and they're like, "Man, I have never whitetail hunted in my life." And I'm like, "Oh my god, man, you're gonna be sick of me in an hour because I'm gonna follow you around and your bank account's about to be depleted. We're gonna buy so many guns and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's I love it. I love it. It's a big
That's
piece
cool.
of me.
Here's some questions for you.
Shoot.
Did you hunt before you went to the military?
I did a little bit.
Okay.
Not as much as you would think.
Mhm.
It was mostly small game with my buddies, and it was, and I would go out on the occasional deer hunt when I could in Virginia. I was a very busy kid when I was younger,
Sports and whatnot.
yeah, sport, yeah, and so hunting would be something that in Northern Virginia we were fairly rural, but like it would be something you would do like once every couple of weeks
Okay.
until it becomes a lifestyle.
Gotcha.
And the winter would come around. You'd be like, you want to go hunt rabbits, you want to go hunt squirrel, you want to go hunt some imaginary birds that we'll never find, and so,
Yep.
and yeah, but it also wasn't uncommon, especially in my day, in the '90s, to, this is pre all the craziness in the world. You could roll into your high school parking lot, with a 12
Yeah.
gauge in the gun rack, and you
Yep,
go
in the
hunting
back of
right
the
after
truck.
school. Yeah.
Yep.
So I did hunt before I joined the military, but it really, really became a passion when I got out. Like
Got it.
really,
Okay. Next question would be then, did you have family that exposed you to it? I know you said you went hunting with your buddies, or was it more that you became interested in firearms and it was sort of a means to use firearms more? Like where exactly did it fit in?
It was a close 50-50.
Okay.
I was already a gun guy. I was already an infantryman, and I was a contractor at the time when I really, really ramped it up. And to be honest, I found that the the clearing of my mind aspect at that point, like the PTSD therapy,
Yeah.
really, really became a thing, and
Okay.
it really, really moved me along that path. But I already was a gun guy, so it was very
Yeah.
easy for me.
Okay.
But it was a very serious tie-in of my buddies exposing it to me, and not so much my family. My family wasn't full of a lot of hunters,
Okay.
fishermen galore. I mean, my family's actually from Massachusetts, so we had fishermen everywhere. You could
Yeah.
throw sticks at them, but everybody, and Massachusetts has some very, very restrictive gun laws and hunting laws, so that
Okay.
hampered me. But it was pretty much a little bit before high school, then the military, and then when I got out, I was driven. I knew what I
Okay.
wanted to do.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Very cool. Okay. I have a bunch of questions, but I'm going to take us down weird rabbit holes that we don't need to get to.
I got you.
Unless you're hunting rabbit in those holes. So let's do this, man. Unless you have anything else you want to mention as far as your background and kind of how you became, the Brian that we have here today. Let's jump into some stories, brother.
Let's do it.
All right. Set the stage.
All right. So I have to. So this is going to be a little bit of a weird start because I've heard some of the other episodes. I have to give a lot of credit in my hunting world to my wife.
Oh, okay.
My wife is my ride or die. I mean, she supports me in everything that I do, and I'm blessed. And I don't use that word very often, but I'm blessed to have her. And she, in our relationship that's about half a decade, a little bit more long, she's definitely supported me the entire time, and she's shown herself to be a true supporting hunting wife.
That's awesome.
And so at one time we decided it was actually just post COVID or just after COVID. We decided that we were going to move to Warrenton, Virginia, and we had a 5-acre plot there, little rambler house, and we were going to move there. And I told her, I said, I don't care where we move, as long as I can throw a tree stand up in the backyard. And
Okay.
I don't care what I throw out of that tree stand. I'll throw rocks out of it if I have to. And I said, let's move out there. And she said, I'm down. Let's do it. So it was my first hunting season there. And I'd never hunted in front of her. You know, we'd gone shooting together a bunch. We actually, our first date was at a shooting range, which was weird for me, you know. And so it was my first hunting season there, and it was early rifle.
Okay.
And I said, you know what, I'm not going to take my rifle. I'm going to take my crossbow out. And that's what I want to do today. So I roll out and I walk down, I don't know, maybe it's 75 yards down to my tree stand. And I get down there, I got my crossbow, and I decided I didn't want to get up in the stand, and I just wanted to sit and just enjoy being out there. And I took my crossbow and I knocked it and I put the safety on it. I leaned it up against a tree, and I literally like turned around and I'm like fishing in my pocket for like a can of dip. And as I'm doing it, I like look down at the ground and I look up, and there's this big fat doe, maybe 15 yards in front of me. And she's just looking me in the eyes, and I'm looking at her. And to me, it felt like half a century, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting there looking at her. I'm like, oh, this is taking too long. But the important part here is that my crossbow is not anywhere near my hand. It's leaning up against kind of like the ladder in the tree next to me. And I stop and I look at it, and I'm like, in like the longest moments of my life, reaching down and just trying to like wrap my hands around it and bring it to my. I'm super pumped because this has been my first deer on the property. I can't even control myself, and I'm like reaching down. I'm like almost shaking, and I get a good grip on this crossbow, and I bring it up literally at the slowest speed I possibly can, and I'm like raising it to my chest, and I'm linking my thumb through the thumb hole, and I finally get up to my chest, and at that moment, right as I kind of get up to my shoulder, the deer just very nonchalantly stops looking at me and turns and gives me like the most perfect broadside shot I possibly could have gotten, and then stops, like just literally stops.
I'm just waiting for you to pin this deer to a tree with your crossbow, man.
It almost happened, and so I just sit there and almost barely looking through my scope. I just zip her, right straight through the vitals. Perfect shot. She maybe goes about 5 yards and just drops. I'll say by far, with all my hunting, like the most ethical kill I've ever had. It was just so fast,
Yeah.
And so
how long from when you walked out there and sat down, maybe even pre-setting up your crossbow? Like, how long were you out there?
Maybe 15 minutes.
That's insane.
Maybe it was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah. My best case scenario is like a full day of kicking my ass hunting mountains. Is like only once I've ever killed on opening day. Otherwise, I'm just day after day after day, mile. Just I'm jealous of you guys that get it done like that.
It's the Northern Virginia, typical whitetail hunt. You know what I mean? Either you'll see nothing for 5 days, or they'll walk up on you in the first 3 minutes.
Okay.
So I zip her, and then I walk over there, and I start to dress the doe and get everything out. And many times in my hunting history have I stopped, and like in my brain, I'm sitting there going, I'm going to figure that out later. What am I going to do if I actually hit a deer and I got to get her out of the woods? And this actually comes into another story later. But so I zip her and I get her, completely cleaned out. And I stop and I look and I go, I don't have a deer cart. I don't have 3 feet of rope. I don't have a bungee cord near me. I have nothing. I was like, I gotta get this thing up this hill, and the hill was actually kind of annoying. It almost starts going straight up right when you back up to our house. So I drag her as far as I can, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just pooped, and I'm just like, man, I was like, I did not prepare myself for the silliness. I'm trying to get through thick Virginia woods and brambles and weeds and all sorts of stuff. So finally, I give up and I go get a wheelbarrow.
Okay, all right.
roll it down the hill. And at this point, I had knocked on the window and I said, "All right, this is going to be a test here." And I say, I look at my wife and I go, "Hey, you want to come help me?" And she goes, and she's going to eat this deer too. So she's like, "Yeah, let's do this."
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'd never shown her a dead animal, never in my life.
Did
So
she
I
have any
know
kind of hunting background, or is it just like she got with you and was like, "Let's do it"?
she didn't have it for herself, but she had her grandfather was a hunter,
Okay.
so she was used to the visuals, but I
Okay.
hadn't seen her be used to it. I guess is the
Got it.
best way to put it. So we go down the hill and we get the deer in the wheelbarrow and we just start kind of wheeling her up and of course there's legs flying everywhere and every time you move the wheelbarrow a little bit a head come flopping out with a tongue and my wife is just a champ. I mean I was amazed.
Yeah.
She's folding legs in and moving heads over and like that, and I was like, there's no way that this is going as well as it is going right now. Like there
Yeah.
should be some sort of squeamish screaming or something. And I knew she was a tough girl. My wife's a veteran too, so I knew she was a tough girl. You know what I mean? But she was proving it.
Yeah.
And we finally get all the way to the top of the hill. And by the time we get to the top of the hill, I don't even know. I want to throw this deer in a dumpster. I'm so tired, and so is she. And I walk into the kitchen and pour myself a glass of water and a coffee, and we dump the deer in kind of our front yard, and I start drinking my coffee and I'm walking around the house. I'm getting ready to go do the second part, which is go out there and finish cleaning the deer and skin it or get it to my processor. And I look outside and my wife is out there in her pajamas, no less,
Okay.
in her pajamas, one leg up, one of the deer's legs up.
Oh, I thought. Okay, I'm glad it was a deer legs. You had me. For
Yeah,
a second
exactly.
there,
Yeah,
like,
she
what
wasn't
the
she
hell?
wasn't peeing on the deer, or anything,
God.
but she had one deer leg up, and she's got the entire body exposed, and she's just hosing it out, hosing blood out,
Yeah.
just sitting there and and it must be spraying all over her. And and I'm sitting there looking at her. I'm going, well, holy shit, that's the woman for me right there. Like that was she didn't no complaint, no nothing. They didn't even think twice.
Just knew what to do and got it done.
Knew what to do, got it done, helped me throw it in the back of the truck, and it was off to the processor. So that was kind of our first deer as a couple together, and it
That's
was
pretty
also
cool.
when I knew I was like, if this woman ever leaves me, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Like I'm done. I'm finished.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
My wife is the one for me, absolutely, but she is not into that stuff. So like, we watch a zombie movie, right? Like The Last of Us, we're watching these days, and zombies are fine, but as soon as a zombie gets someone, she's like, "Tell me when it's over," and she like, looks away. Can't no gore for her. So
Yeah.
you got yourself one, man. That's cool.
I did. We took her on a hunt, which kind of leads into another story. We took her on a hunt because she hasn't really done it, and I wanted to take her on a bird hunt. I figured it'd be the easiest one.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to this place called Rose Hill Farms. It's here in Virginia. A really nice little game preserve, and it's a very simple hunt. Like you could be in and out in 3 hours.
Okay.
You just kind of walk in, and as long as you have your hunting license, they have birds prepped for you, and you pick a certain number of birds. And I'm not a big fan of reserve hunts, but for birds, chukar and grouse and pheasant aren't really indigenous to Virginia. I mean, they're indigenous to Asian countries, and out west they can flourish, but here in Virginia, they're going to get eaten by anything that'll eat them. And so we went to this hunt, and I was like, this will be great. And I bought her an old Winchester Model 12 because I figured let's make it really classic and really enjoy it. And you never know. You're always real nervous when you take somebody hunting for the first time because you really want them to succeed. At the end of the day, like I could have given, two shits if I had gotten a bird. But I wanted her to at least get a bird and get the hunting experience out of the way. And we get through the day, and the people there have this amazing dog working with us, and it was great. And I think I'm on my 9th bird, and Andrea has missed her 5th. So we got to this point where I finally saw this one pheasant, beautiful, emerald green head, and I saw it, and I was like, you know what? Now I don't care what else happens today. I just want that bird. It was a beautiful pheasant. I could see it in my head. The picture of me just like holding it up next to me. And so the dog flushes a bird flies. I missed twice. and the bird's gone. And so I'm sitting there going, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way I missed that bird. And we just kind of keep going and keep going and keep going. And I get a couple more birds. And Andrea, she was trying, but she just not a skill she was used to, and she just kept missing them.
Yeah.
And so we finally got to the end of the day, and we're talking to this to our guide, and she was awesome. She was just she used to work at what is it, the place from Tombstone, the ranch, the 4-6s or whatever. And,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah. So she was a character. She was really awesome. And so we're sitting there, and I was like, at least this girl's making this comfortable for us and making it fun. And we get to the part where we're kind of walking back towards the farmhouse. And as we're walking back towards the farmhouse, Andrea's walking underneath this huge pine tree, and she looks up and she goes, "There's a pheasant up here." And the lady, with us turns and looks at her, and she goes, "Okay." And Andrea's like, "What do I do?" And she's like, "Shoot it." And she's like, "Shoot the pheasant." And she's like, "Is that fair?" And I was like, "I don't care if it's fair." I was like, it flew up there, shoot it. And so it just happens to pop off the branch, and Andrea, I guess, plugs it. And it hits the ground, and I'm like, thank God she got a bird.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted, was for her to get a bird.
And she got your bird, didn't she?
She got the bird. She got my bird. I go walking up, and there is no doubt in my mind she's holding my bird in her hand. And I'm sitting there looking at her. I'm going, oh my God. I was like, you were such a good luck charm for me. I was like, but that's my bird. And I didn't even care about the other 9 birds. I was just like, they're food now. I don't care. And so I begrudgingly had to sit there and take a picture of my beautiful wife holding up my bird. And of course, like, it's always funny too when you bring somebody hunting like that. Like, they're wearing the gear that you brought for them or that you bought for them. You know what I mean? And I'm kitted out like I'm getting ready to retake Fallujah. And, like, I have every piece of gear I can think of on. And I'm just sitting there like,
night vision goggles for your pheasant hunting.
Yeah, I have flares going off, So it was a hilarious ending to the day. And it was like so bittersweet. I was so happy for her that she got the bird. But like, to this day, I have to tell friends, I'm like, I went pheasant hunting like 2 years ago. My wife shot my bird. I was like, I swear to God, that's what happened.
How dare she?
How dare she? How dare she? Good on her.
Yeah, exactly, man. So how did she take it? I know that to me, she sounds like the kind of lady that was just like, all right, check that box. But some people, when they kill that first animal, it's a big moment for them. How did she handle it? Hey, hunters. Have you ever had one of those stories, the ones that you didn't want to tell, the ones that end in failure? Yeah, I've been there. Actually, you know what? The culprit for me usually is bad optics, or worse, lack of using my optics at all. Picture this. I spot a trophy buck, or an antelope, or an elk, whatever it may be. My heart is racing, but the blurry view, or I just can't quite identify exactly what I'm looking at, it has me second guessing. Well, that's where Vortex Optics comes in. With crystal clear glass and rugged durability, Vortex gives you the confidence to take the shot. Don't let poor optics ruin your story. Make every moment count. Upgrade to Vortex and turn your hunting tales into triumphs. Visit vortexoptics.com today.
She handled it very well. She's amazingly resilient. So I know, we're both animal lovers. I mean, like, we live our life for our dogs, and I mean, like, and so we there's nothing lost on us as far as like taking an animal life. Yeah. But she's also very pragmatic, and so she, like, she shot food. Dragging her out there to do it again, to go for like bigger game, I mean, maybe a different story. I don't know. It's up to. Yeah. It's very different when you're sitting. Birds are trying to get away from you every bit that they can. They're just they're taking off. It's almost like a challenge at that point. I mean, they're giving you the bird as they fly away, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to get you. But deer, other big game like deer and hogs and stuff like that do have. They have greater personalities. I mean, in the animal world, they just do.
Yeah, what does Steven Ranella call them? Like charismatic megafauna or whatever? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Hooved animals, basically. Yeah, they're charismatic.
Yeah. They are. And I am compassionate to people who are sitting there like, whew, I don't know if I want to do this. And I want to do it every minute of every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there was a way to jump out of airplanes doing it, I'd do it. But I think that, you know, we'll give it a shot one of these days. It's
Yeah.
totally on her. And if we get, and honestly, I believe this with almost anybody I spend time with or I hunt with. If you get there and, you're about halfway through your trigger pull and you change your mind, that's on
Good
you.
on
That's
you.
fine. That is
For
fine with
sure.
me.
Yeah,
Now,
man.
as soon as you get up, I'm going to take up that trigger pull, and I'm going to fix the job. But yeah. So we'll see what the future brings as
I
far
didn't
as
see that coming. I don't know why I didn't see that coming, but that was funny. No, I'm with you though. When I started hunting, man, I was like, I was going with some my wife's family. I had never hunted, had no interest in hunting, and I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to pull a trigger. But it was like this bonding experience of going out, being part of elk camp, and I like full well knew I was like, I don't really want to shoot anything. I don't think I'm going to be able to shoot anything. Turns out, put something in front of me, I am a cold-blooded killer. But before going, I had no idea, and I didn't think that it would be palatable for me. But everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Once it creates a lifestyle, it can stick. It definitely can. And once it stuck with me, I talked to my mom today. We were talking about what we do to unwind, and I said, Ma, I was like, if you could say, you could stick me in the woods for a week on end, and as long as I'm out there and just letting everything kind of flow away, and it takes all my anxiety away, makes everything very relaxed for me, and so it definitely is a big once you get to the lifestyle, once you get in there, it just becomes part of you,
100%.
and yeah.
Well, that's a cool story. I'm sorry that your wife stole your bird. I hope you remind her every day.
Yeah,
what other stories you got, man?
I try not to, but one that actually that people remind me that I always have to tell was actually this past season.
Okay.
It was, and it's a funny one. I try to have a little bit of humor. I like to make fun of myself, so I try to have a little bit of humor in everything that I talk about. And so this past year, some of the members of our shooting club and our Apex members, which are our high-end members, grant me certain pieces of land I can go hunt on. Yeah, I mean,
that's cool.
Because I do a good job for them, and that's just because it's my reward, and they treat me well. I got to admit. Yeah. And so one of them, it was getting later in the season, and we were starting to get a little bit of snow in Virginia, West Virginia. And I'd gone to their property. I spent a lot of time on this property, and I really love it. It's my happy place. Okay. And I'm out there, and I showed up, no snow. And it's one of these pieces of property where I can actually drive my truck from the front to the back of it. And if I feel like I'm getting skunked in the back of it, I'll drive to the front again and just hang out there for a little while, and I'll drive to the back. So it gives me a lot of free movement. Okay. Or if I want to, I can. If I want to, I can just throw my rifle over my shoulder, and I can just walk the whole thing, for hours. And so I felt like every time I had found a deer, they knew I was there 5 minutes before I was even in the woods, and they were gone. And so I was starting to get a little frustrated, but as frustrated, it was kind of like a bad day of hunting was better than a good day at work. But I definitely wanted a deer, and I kind of wanted last deer for the season.
Okay.
And I was at this point where I was coming in between two pieces of property, and they're kind of these large cow fields, if you will, or grazing fields. And I was coming in between two tree lines, and I turned around, and like 3 yearlings came walking out, and then in what looked like the closest to the biggest deer herd I'd seen in a while, like 4 doe walked out and 1 buck, and the buck like literally had like shown his head and then just turned away. And so I was like, all right, I'm not even gonna, if I even walk into the woods right now, he's gone. So I looked up at the doe, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the biggest one, and I'm gonna smoke her. And I this past year, I kind of made a pledge to myself. As far as equipment was concerned, I was going to. I hunted with a SIG MCX and 300 blackout the entire time. Mine has a 16-inch barrel, so it's kind of like the it's like the AK for America in a way. Like, it's kind of crazy how the gun works out. but I told myself I was going to hunt with it all season long, and I ended up taking like 5 deer with it.
Oh, wow.
And so I took my MCX off my shoulder, and I was hunting with a battle sight on purpose, just because the typical distances that we have here. I mean, generally in Virginia, you're not shooting it over 60 yards,
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
yeah, and this was about a 45-yard shot. And
So let me real quick. Those cattle pastures, were they? There's no way you're getting a shot over 60 yards in those little pastures.
not really. They're about
Okay.
100 yards in length, and then
Okay.
separated by tree line. And so you can see through the tree line, but it's a dicey shot.
Okay,
Like,
got it.
if you had a 5 to 25 and you cranked her all the way in, you might be able to get one through those trees, but I still wouldn't chance it.
Got it. Okay.
So this one was just about 40 yards. And that's a kind of a guesstimate, but I did the same thing I had done all season long. All 4 other deer, and I dropped my reticle right on the same point, right on the vitals, and squeezed the trigger. And for the first time this season, it didn't drop, and it ran, and I didn't even know if I'd hit it. And I'm sitting there, and like and there's like zero recoil on this gun, so I mean, I was like, there's no way, unless like I sneeze through my trigger pull, like there's no way I missed. And so I'm kind of like, it's kind of like that feeling, I mean, like, you feel your neck burning, and you're like, man, I gotta truck over there. So I go running over there, and I get down to the tree line she was up against, and I look down at the ground, good blood. And but I notice it running all the way into the woods, and around all these cattle fields is all these ravines that lead back to a creek, to a pretty stout creek. And those ravines are a pain, and I didn't realize it as much as I did this day. And I can just see the blood like going downhill and over logs and everything. And I'm following, and there's snow on the ground at this point. And I'm just like, all right, well, at least I know where she went. And I get to like the deepest part of the ravine, and I look down, and there she is. It's stone dead. And I'm like, great. And then I go look up the ravine, and I'm like, son of a, there's no way. I was like, this is going to kill me, but I'm going to do it anyways.
All right.
And so once again, the I'm going to figure it out thing came into effect.
But no wheelbarrow this time, right? You're like,
no wheelbarrow. So
or wheelchairs.
Had no wheelchairs. Yeah, so I might have needed one afterwards, but
yeah.
So I get her. I kind of skirt the edge of this hill, and I'm going down. I'm actually going down game trails. I'm using their tool against them, and I'm dragging her. And finally, I get her to the bottom of this ATV track. And when I get to the bottom of the ATV track, I look up, and it's like straight up, and I'm like, man. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get my deer cart. I'm gonna come down here, and I'm gonna drag her up. And so I get down there. I get her on the deer cart, and I start to try to drag her up, and the wheels won't move, and they won't move at all. And every time, and I was trying to figure out what was wrong, and it turned out that like one of the screws was coming loose, and one of the bearings had come loose, and so one of them wasn't moving, the other one was just sliding in the snow. So I'm like, all right, here we go. And I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I'm like 145 pounds. I'm like
barely bigger than the doe.
Yeah, I'm like 20 pounds heavier than this deer. So I get underneath her, and I pick her up, and I'm like 5 feet up the hill, and I put her back down. And I'm 5 feet up again, put her back down, and I'm just like, man, I got a ways to go. I got like another 200, 300 yards to go up this hill. And so finally I put her down. I go, you know what? I was like, I'm an idiot. I'm like, I have a pickup truck that's right over the edge of that hill. I was like, I'm going to go get my truck. I'm going to back it up to the hill. I'm going to put her on the deer cart. I'm going to drag the deer cart up. So I decided to do it. Get to the truck once again, being the illy prepared Brian Dowling. I go to the truck. I don't have a rope. I don't have anything. I have like a knife and a combat rifle. So I'm just like looking at myself. I'm like, I'm an idiot. So, but I'm in an area. I'm near Middleburg, Virginia, and I just decide, you know what? I was like, I'm making this harder than it needs to be. I was like, there's no time limit where I am. I was like, I'm just gonna go get a rope. So I drive to a hardware store in the middle of Middleburg. having no sense of self whatsoever, I stroll into this hardware store, not really paying attention to anything, and I go and I walk around and I go, you know what, I'm gonna I'm gonna grab this and this and this and this and this and this, and I walk up to the counter. It's a little town hardware store, like nice little kind of mom and pop shop. I walk up to the cash register, and I hadn't looked at myself yet, but having put a deer on my shoulders that I had shot, I had blood all over me, all over my shoulder, all over the front of my jacket, all over my pants. And it wasn't like it was a lot, but it was enough where like you could tell I had blood on me.
Yeah.
And as I walk up, I lay down a hatchet and 2 spools of rope and 2 bungee cords. And I stop and I look at the nice lady behind the counter, and she looks at me, and the first words out of my mouth were, "I didn't murder anybody." And she goes,
yeah, that's what they all say.
Yeah. And she stops and she goes, "I'm not sure I believe you." I said, "Listen, lady," I was like, "I have not committed a crime here." I was like, "It's the end of the season. Shot a deer. I'm just trying to get it out of the woods." And she goes, "Whatever." She just rings me.
Were you
up.
in camo at least?
Oh yeah,
something?
I had my camo jacket on and like a pair of Carhartts. But I'm also in rural Virginia, where anybody, whether they were a murderer or not, would be wearing a camo jacket and a pair of Carhartts. It wasn't like I stuck out from a crowd.
Good point. Yeah. Imagine this. You're deep in the wilderness. The sun is rising, casting golden light over rugged terrain. Your heart races as you navigate through the backcountry, knowing the perfect shot could come at any moment. This is where memories are made and stories are born. Ultralight rifles are often seen as Mountain West guns, but the Ridgeline FFT from Christensen Arms breaks that mold. This stellar, lightweight rifle is your perfect companion, whether you're in the backcountry or box blind, ensuring you never have to switch between your builds. With its aero-grade carbon fiber barrel and stock, the Ridgeline FFT is incredibly lightweight, yet powerful. Thanks to its innovative side baffle brake, it reduces recoil even on a 5-pound gun shooting magnum calibers. It's like black magic. As a sub-MOA tack driver made in America, the Ridgeline FFT is for those who seek the thrill of the hunt and the joy of storytelling. Picture yourself returning to camp, Ridgeline FFT in hand, ready to share the day's adventures. Head to your local shop, pick one up. You've got to feel this rifle to believe it. Let the Ridgeline FFT be part of your hunting stories and the legacy you pass down.
So I eventually went back, got all the way back, and I was finished with the day. And I literally spooled that rope from the back of my tailgate, wrapped it around the cart, and just drug that deer out. And when I drug that deer out, I mean, you would have thought I just won the Olympics. Like somebody was putting a gold medal around my neck. I was the most excited person ever. I threw it in the back of my truck, and then told my wife the entire story. And then she was just like, she's like, maybe next time you'll be prepared. Now the back of my car looks like an REI. Like, I mean, literally, you could find any piece of equipment. I think there's a generator back there and maybe some MREs. I'm not positive, but
that's funny, man. I've said this before on the podcast, but the best lessons are self-taught. You make those mistakes. You're like, not going to happen again. I don't want to be a murderer at the hardware store again.
Oh, no.
I'm going to make sure I'm prepared next time around. But that's a great story.
100%.
Let me ask you: Did you manage to get like a photo of yourself with the deer or without the deer, but covered in blood? Because I'd love to see what you look like going into that hardware store.
I didn't take a picture of that one that day. I did take another picture. It was the week before when I'd gotten my $1 of the season. I got all does all season, and I got $1. It was a 4-point, and I wanted to keep the skull. And I very rarely, it's does, I just drop them off at the process. And I get all my deer processed because I believe it just builds commerce in our shooting sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these people got to pay the bills too. But I just dump them off. And then this one, I was like, I got a 4-point, and I was just like, I want to keep that skull. And I cut the head off, and I got this picture. My wife took the picture because I'd cut the head off, and she's got a couple of them actually. They're actually funny pictures of me with deer heads, and of her from her office window at home. and me in the front yard just staying there holding this deer head, like like I'm expecting a reward, like she should have thrown a treat out the window or something like that.
Yeah.
But she does have a host of psychotic looking pictures after I've come home from hunting trips. But
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. I have a photo of a buddy of mine. We were hog hunting, and he shot like a 300-pound hog, and we got the head off whole with just this massive head. It's like the size of his chest. Like their necks are as big as their heads. They're just this huge thing. He's holding it up by the ears. It's just this epic photo of just this gnarly pig head and this guy just covered in blood. So, I could probably not quite like your deer head, but still, I bet I'd still like to see that photo that your wife sent.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll definitely send that to you guys.
Sweet, man.
Yeah. So deer hunting, like all my lessons are just are self taught. I mean, cool. they were, and generally they come out fairly humorously, and we really kind of believe in subsistence hunting. I mean, we eat everything we shoot, and so I try to keep my freezer as full as possible, which I found, like I said, my wife being a champion, of dealing with my lifestyle. She has tons of moments where she's just like, she has to stop and be like, I can't believe I married this. This is this.
Yeah. Here, I have a question for you. Going back to the 45 yards, knowing that you are an outright gun expert, is that a fair statement, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I recently got a new rifle, put on a new scope, and I was like, where should I sight, or where should I zero at? And so in your situation, I'm curious, where would you sight in where you are? Where do you sight in? And then if you were to go Western big game, what would you zero at? And then what do you think is the perfect, if you're just not going to switch between the two? Like, where would you land? And I don't want a technical answer. Don't you dare.
No, I won't.
I just want an answer because, I'm just curious.
So, to not be technical, and because we do so much long range with us now, for Western big game, and I've even seen Ranella do this now. He's moving into modern sighting systems. I would say for Western big game, you want to, just like if you were an SF sniper or a Marine Corps sniper, mm-hmm. I would put your zero at 100. Okay. To be honest, as long as you understand your holds. If you understand the flight path of your bullet, then your 100 is going to be where you want to start. And the reason for that is when we do our long range out here, and we teach our students to go out to 1,000. Okay. And if you start at 100 and you're using and this is where it does get a little technical, you're using like an MRAD system, right? An MRAD reticle, and that just means that the reticle is in mil radians. You are starting to get yourself into truly accurate shooting. One of my guys can get you into, our main instructor gets you out to 1,000, and then when we do a refresher after that course, the next guy gets you into a 5-inch plate at 600. Okay. So I would start your zero at 100. Now, if you want to find a middle ground between the two, it just depends on what kind of scope you're using. Okay. If you're using a 5 to 25, something that you see the moon with, then 100's what is going to do you justice. Okay. If you're using something smaller, like I tend to use when I'm here in Virginia, like I'll use a battle sight, or I'll use I've even hunted with an ACOG before. I know that's a technical term, but a U.S. military ACOG. I do my zero at 25, but I understand where my holds are on that okay. scope. Okay. So it takes some knowledge, some optics knowledge. But if you feel like nerding out one night, just sit down and learn how an MRAD scope works. Okay.
Interesting.
And if you really want to learn,
recite, because I'm at 200.
Yeah. So I have heard of that. Out west, a lot of guys will zero at 200 to 300 because they know they're taking that shot. Yeah. It just depends on the reticle you're using. Okay. If you're shooting at if you're going to be shooting long distance and you start that crosshair at 100, then when you're reaching out, everything else will fall in line. Your holds will fall in line as you start to move down that reticle. It does take a little bit of science, and yes, out here we use laser rangefinders and kestrels, and we are very technical. My instructor at work is a CIFSIC instructor. I mean, he's amazing. And these guys have forgotten more about shooting than I'll ever know, and I'm a gun expert. So, there's skills to it. And if you ever want to learn, head out to, if you're ever in Virginia, we'll teach you. We don't care.
Okay.
Like, we love it. This is what we live for.
Cool. I want to get into shooting. I want to get into long range shooting. I just haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, I got this new rifle and I love it. But I was like, where should I sight in? And I settled on 200 because it's Western. It's a lot of people do that. And you're right. Like, you expect 200 to 600 yards is where you're going to hit. And
Yeah.
I knew where my holes should be at 200, but it's good to hear your opinion. So sorry for the listeners that are going technical when we're supposed to just be doing stories, but it is what it is. I was curious, man. What else you got, Brian, man?
So there was one funny day. This one goes back to my wife, and she insists I always tell people the story. So there was the day that she didn't want me to get a deer, and this was at the same piece of property. And it was one year, and it was the best deer I'd gotten all year. And I'm not a trophy hunter. I don't care how many points they have. If a 10-point comes walking out, yes, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
But if they have, if they're a 4 or a 6-point, it's food in the fridge. You know?
Yeah, brown is down, meat.
Yep. So I was out at that property, and I had taken my truck. I think was in the shop, but that wasn't going to stop me from going hunting. And I grabbed my wife's CRV. And
right.
It's this cute little red CRV. It's perfect for her. She loves that car. And my dumbass goes and drives out to go hunting. And of course, the day that she doesn't want me to get a deer, because she knows I'm going to throw it in the back of her carpeted CRV, I am out there at the property. I'd just given up. Like, I had been walking the trails all day long and I hadn't seen anything. And I'd seen this buck like a couple times when I'd been out there, but I hadn't been able to kind of really pin him down. And I knew kind of where he hung out, but every time I would go out there, I would scare up a bunch of deer, and I couldn't tell if he was there.
Okay.
And I decided to pack up the car and just, like, I was going to call it quits for the day. And I got in my truck, or I got in her car, and I started driving, kind of down the field towards the trail. And as I'm driving out, I turn, I look at the corner of my eye, and there he is. And he's like literally staring at me once again. And I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm sitting here, I'm going, son of a, I was like, I'm in the car. I was like, I got to find a way out of the car. I was like, otherwise this is illegal. I was like, but I'm getting that deer. So everything that could go wrong in 5 minutes goes wrong. Like, literally,
Perfect.
like I bang my gun against the door. I look over, he's still there. I go to open the door so I can walk down the fields and and feel pretty ethical. And so I go to open the door, and the keys are in the ignition. Seatbelt bell goes off. I'm just like, son. I was like, and this guy won't move. He's just sitting there staring at me. And I'm just like, I was like, now he's too dumb to live. So I have to do something.
Yeah, you got it better for the herd to get him out of the gene pool.
So it ended up kind of being a funny story in two ways. I get out and I walk down the hill, and I turn on him. And as I turn on him, he still doesn't move. And he's sitting there and he's looking at me. And then it's almost like he wanted to die. He kind of like scoots his butt a little bit. And once again, gives me a perfect broadside.
Yeah, it sounds like you're hunting a zoo, Brian. Are
Yeah,
you sure
I know.
you weren't in a zoo?
Yeah, I know. It's most animals. I don't know. For some reason, they don't fear me. It's probably my size. I'm little. So he like kind of he scoots his butt a little bit. And this year I was hunting with an AR-10, and that was my whole deal. I was like, I'm gonna hunt with this AR-10. I love it. And so I hit him, and he runs about 30 yards. And he falls down. He tried to get into the woods to bed down, so I couldn't find him. And he got like into this little thicket. And he falls down. And I'm kind of over the moon at this point because he's the best deer I've gotten in a while, and I'm just pumped. And and I go running over to him, and I start field dressing him right away after about 15 phone calls to my wife. And of course, she gets this phone call that she didn't want, which was, I got a deer.
Yeah.
And then she finds out it's a buck, and she goes, I can tell, I know just in her brain, she's like, crap, he's going to put that in the back of the car. So it kind of gets a little funnier just because I start cleaning him up. And the guy who is, who's one of my very near dear friends who owns the property, he shows up over the hill. And he shows up at the hill, and I'm arm deep, like in a deer. I have blood up to the elbows, and I'm pulling guts out and everything like that. And he's a hunter too, so he understood what was going on.
Yeah.
But of course, he's dressed like a normal human being, and I'm dressed, like Cabela's threw up on me. And he's just looking at me, and he's like, "Where's your truck?" And I go, I don't have my truck. I was like, I got Andrea's CRV, and he's like, you have your wife's car, and you're gonna throw that deer in the back of it. And I'm just like, yeah, I am. Yeah. I was like, this one's not staying here. And he literally gives me this look, and he's just like, good luck with that. He's like,
Yeah.
you have fun when you get home.
Did you have a tarp or anything?
I did have a tarp back there.
Okay.
I
Good,
had a small tarp, and I only got a little bit of blood that I think I cleaned up before anybody noticed. But then I had to hear it for the week. I mean, she told me,
Yeah.
she's like, my car has smelled for the past 5 days, and I was like, I don't know what to do about that. I was like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good deer though. So she once again, she's very forgiving, but it was the one day that she didn't want me to get a deer.
That's too funny, man. Yeah, I could imagine my wife would be pretty pissed if I took her vehicle. We have an Explorer and then we have a Silverado. So if we took the Explorer and I brought that thing back with a deer in it, she'd lose her shit at me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I understand where you're coming from.
I got to find a better plan to Dexter up the back of her CRV so I can
There you go.
make sure I get deer out of there. But yeah, so once again, amazingly supportive. I got to learn the rules, I think, somewhere in the next 10 years of our marriage.
What you got to do is get her out there with you,
Yeah.
and then she's making the same mistakes and can't blame you. If you're doing it together, it's an event, right? It's not a mistake.
Yeah. This will be the first year. I'm hoping I can do it. This will be the first year my stepson's going to hunt with me.
Okay.
He's only been my stepson for a short period of time, obviously, but he's going to go out and hunt with me this year. We built him a rifle last year. That's one of my things
Awesome.
at my job. I build rifles for people, so we built one together, and he's all pumped about it. And so we'll finally get him out there. I think that will be a good way to at least get mom out there for like the middle to the aftermath. I don't know if we can
Yeah.
get her out there at 5 a.m., but maybe we can get out there to the center part.
Yeah, I guess I got to ask, why hasn't she gone out? Is it because she doesn't want the early mornings and stuff like that, or?
We are extremely. I don't like to say we're workaholics, but I live my life at XCAL, and
Okay.
she works as a contractor for the government, and she is just as dedicated to her job as I am mine, and us finding, and this is very, and it was funny you mentioned watching The Last of Us. When we find that time together,
Yeah.
like when it's just us, it's let's cook a big meal, let's get on the couch, and let's watch like an entire season of whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, and that's our time together, and we've earned it. You know what I mean? Like we work so hard, and like I said, we're both veterans, so we have no problem being like, I'm gonna park my ass on the couch for a little while,
Yeah.
because I didn't before. so
That's awesome. All right. Here's a question for you.
shoot.
Show recommendation. Give me one. And you can't say Last of Us.
No, it wouldn't be The Last of Us. Dark Winds. I'm actually a big
Dark
fan of
Winds.
that one. Yeah.
I'm not familiar. I'll also check it out.
Yeah, so I believe it's AMC,
Okay.
and it's kind of set in the 60s. It's set right after Vietnam, and on an Indian reservation, and
Okay.
and it's just such a good show. And it's just enjoyable, but it's got its creepy, fun elements to it that kind of make you wonder.
Okay.
And I listened to all the books too, on my commute, and so I really was all about that show when I found out it was coming out.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
and this year, so I'm a big Aliens fan. The movie Aliens, I'm obsessed
Oh,
with
yeah.
it. Our dogs are
Yeah.
named after characters from Aliens, like everything. And Aliens Earth is supposed to come out this summer, and that's going to be that's the one show that I'm just anticipating hardcore. Whether it's good or not, it could completely be terrible, and I'm still
You
going to
never
watch every
know.
episode.
You
Yeah.
never know. But that franchise historically has got some pretty great films. So.
Oh, it does.
Cool. Well, Brian, you got any other ones for us? I know we're about out of time here for what we scheduled. Want to make sure we get them all in if we can.
No, I think the most recent hunt, just real quick one, and this is really just a shout out to people in North Carolina. There's these guys I go hunt with in North Carolina called Carolina Razorbacks, And this is some down home hunting. Like they've dropped me off in the middle of the swamp for like 17 hours before.
Oh, shit.
And me being an 11 Bravo, I'm like, oh, this is home for me.
Yeah.
It's very easy. And I've been skunked years and years in a row, not being able to get a hog. And this past year, I finally got one. But it was funny. My wife being my luck charm, I just texted her and I said, I'm not going to get a hog during the day. I'm going to be here all night. And as I hit send, I look up and there's 10 of them in front of me.
There you go.
And so I finally had a success this year. And it's that's just the moral of that story is like, just keep trying. Like, like I said, a bad day of hunting is better than a good day at work. So
hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Well, I don't know if you've listened to this episode, Jim Huntsman. Have you listened to that episode yet?
I believe so, yeah.
He goes to the swamp in North Carolina. If you guys are interested in a hilarious story about someone hunting a swamp in North Carolina, check out the Jim Huntsman episode. I don't know what number it is, but there's that area. It intrigues me, the hunting in that area. So I'd love to get out there sometime.
It's terrifying. You go out there. I heard things in those woods. The worst part is I heard things in those woods, and then afterwards, these are great guys, but I mean they're good old boys. And I turned to them and I'd be like, man, I heard some shit in the woods. Like I heard some like screeching and weird stuff. And like instead of them like assuaging my anguish and being like, oh yeah, that was a raccoon or that was this, they were like, yeah. And I'd be like, no, yup is not the answer. I was like, I was like, but yeah, no, North Carolina, great hunting, definitely without a doubt.
I believe it, man. I believe it. No, huge black bears out in North Carolina.
Oh,
I think they hold the continental United States record comes from North Carolina.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah. Well, Brian, thank you, man. This was a lot of fun. Why don't we share? You've obviously got a lot going on. Why don't you share some of your information where people can find you, what you do, etc., and I'll put links to all of it in the show notes.
Sure. So, biggest one for my life is going to be www.xcal.com or at XCAL Loudon on Instagram. XCAL is my home. My bosses are saving graces for me. They gave me my sense of purpose without a doubt.
Awesome.
So XCAL is my house. Look it up on Instagram. It is like nothing you've ever seen before. And then Mimic Firearms, which will be coming out next year. That's at Mimic Firearms on Instagram. And if you're interested in getting in touch with me for whatever reason, just for fun, send me a message, show me some hunting stories, show me some pictures. My own little small company is Gunfisher Weaponeering. Made up word, by the way. And Gunfisher Weaponeering is GUNNFISHER_WPNG. And that's on Instagram. But that's just like to communicate with me, see all my cool gun stories. There's a lot of full auto shooting on there, and there's all sorts of stuff I do at work. So,
awesome,
but yeah,
man.
Yeah, feel free to spread the word, and we'd love to see anybody who's interested in this community, shooting sports or the outdoor community, come to XCAL. I mean, we are a home for everybody. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Cool. Well, Brian, thank you again, man. This was a lot of fun. I actually hear all the time that, like, obviously it's easy for me in the West to get Western hunters on, but I feel like I want to hear more East Coast, more whitetail stories. And so I love hearing them. And I've got lots of people clamoring for them. So thank you, sir. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Tell your wife that you're lucky because you are.
I will.
But thanks again, man. I appreciate you.
You got it, brother.
All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. Again, I want to thank Brian for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Couldn't have done it without him, obviously, and he was brave enough to go out there and fill out my form, helping me find more guests who have great stories for you guys to hear. So thank you, Brian. I do appreciate you. Listeners, again, share the story with one person. Give us a rating if you haven't already. I really would appreciate that. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually start this song over here. I'll let you listen to the full thing if you want to hang on, and I'll start putting it at the end of the show. After recording the intro, I was like, maybe I'll just keep the beginning intro, but then add the song at the end. So enjoy, guys. Beyond that, again, I would love feedback on the song. I would love feedback in regards to the episode that's going to be coming out this Friday, so stay tuned for that. That's it. Go out there and make some stories of your own, guys. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the wild where the adventure awaits. Hunting, fishing, filled with tales and great mates. Out in nature's beauty we find the right track. Join us each week for the stories in there. So put on your boots, grab your gear and your rod. We're diving into the news, taking a step toward the wild card. Right in the woods where the rivers run clear. Gather around the fire, the cold bring near. Casting lines and sharing tales we hold through. With every cast, we're finding something new. So grab your gear, it's time for the ride. In this wildlife, we take it all in stride. I'veland.com, all up and down the knob. Grab your gear, it's time